It's not a microscope, although it lets us see what we could never otherwise see. It's not a telescope, although it brings people and places closer to us than they really are. It's not from the imagination of H.G. Wells, but you could fairly call it a time machine. Movie makers call it an optical printer, a precision device that copies old film onto new. Priceless images that are too flammable, too shrunken, too damaged for ordinary projectors often find their way to Scarsdale, New York, and Carl Malkames. The second of 3 generations of filmmakers, Carl specializes in preserving cinema history.
We can trace the history of various aspects of life throughout the history of motion pictures. Organizations like the Red Cross, for instance, that came to mind in reproducing the very rare films tracing the history of the Red Cross. We can see the evolution of that organization through motion pictures, something that is very unique and valuable to us.
(1898), the Spanish-American War, the first wartime test of Miss Clara Barton's brand new American Red Cross. Movies were brand new too, and this short film produced by Thomas Edison is the earliest known motion picture document of American Red Cross work. It's a reenactment, to be sure, probably staged somewhere near Edison's New Jersey studio. A few years later, another reenactment filmed by an unknown producer. History records that Army officers during the Spanish-American War were appalled at the idea of nurses on the battlefield. But it was this humanitarian work in the days of the Rough Riders that won national recognition for the Red Cross. By 1903, the movies had begun to grow up. The Edison studio produced The Great Train Robbery, replete with thrilling and exciting incidents in 14 scenes, boasted the ads. It was our first Western, shot on location in New Jersey. While The Great Train Robbery was packing them in at storefront Nickelodeons, the Red Cross was growing up too. First aid programs began to appear as care for the injured and sick became a concern of the peacetime Red Cross. This ambulance drill, made in the same year as the Great Train Robbery, features trained first aiders doing their stuff. Before long, the art of the first aider had grown more sophisticated. A hermetically sealed first aid outfit was introduced. It was a successful product because opening the bandage can frequently resulted in the need for a bandage. Textbooks of the day proclaimed that no other bandage compress is quite so easy to handle as the Red Cross outfit. This film was also produced at the Edison studio and is the earliest Red Cross try at using the movies to teach. Images of a growing Red Cross, finally preserved for all to see.
In the case of your great paintings, other fields of artistic endeavor, you've always had a constant awareness of their value or future value. And with film now, we're coming in rather late to do this preservation.
World War I, the first war to be extensively documented on film, yet only a small amount of Red Cross footage survived, or so it was thought. Then, in 1979, a chance discovery at Red Cross headquarters in Washington. In a forgotten corner of the attic, film cans. Inside, rolls of highly flammable cellulose nitrate film, severely shrunken, partially decomposed, impossible for ordinary film laboratories to copy. But for Carl Malkames, all in a day's work.
The Red Cross material just happens to fall into the same area time-wise as the Chaplin mutual comedies. This particular clip here of Charles Chaplin and the Fireman had about the same shrinkage and difficulties in reproduction. We were blessed with very good images, so that the result should be exceptional.
Exceptional indeed, not only in quality, but in content. On two of the rolls, missing film from World War I.
Painstaking operation to come up with a brand new reproduction of those old films. For example, each frame may be brought down 1 frame per second, so that projected at 24 frames per second, you can see that it's going to be a slow, painstaking process.
The next roll off the printer dates from 1931. The movies had learned to talk, and the Red Cross had found more ways to help.
When the cry of help is heard across the water, an experienced lifesaver is soon on the way to the rescue. For lowering the toll of accidents is one of the duties with which the Red Cross Life-Saving Service is charged. A hurricane strikes swiftly. The fury of the storm sweeps all before it with the madness, the irresistible, pitiless force of the powers of nature unleashed. The handiwork of man is brushed aside like toys in the fingers of the gale. Above the howl of the wind, the roar of the storm, the crash of buildings and farmhouses, the falling of trees, come frantic appeals for help. A devastated area as in the wake of war. Automobiles hurled hundreds of feet, playthings of the storm. To aid of the hundreds of injured, unfortunate victims of disaster, came the American Red Cross. At scores of first aid dressing stations, with medical supplies brought speedily into the storm area, skilled nurses administer to the injured. In this campaign, President Hoover was one of the first to contribute, and a Red Cross button, emblematic of the President's membership for another year, is pinned on the Chief Executive by Judge John Barton Payne, Chairman of the Central Committee of the American Red Cross. Interest at the White House extends also to Mrs. Hoover, and we find the First Lady of the land not only a member of the District of Columbia chapter, but also an enthusiastic worker in the ranks of organized volunteer service.
With the 30s came the Great Depression. Few jobs and little money. But a trailer at the local movie house had most people counting their blessings.
Once upon a time when I was very young, and first worked in pictures, I used to get awful worried about all the troubles. I wish all the bad things in the world could turn out to be just pretending. But this is happening. It's not a make-believe flood. And these people are really and truly getting hurt. And this is honest-to-goodness trouble. My mommy told me about some people who help. The American Red Cross. I'm all dressed up like one of them. Whenever there's trouble, they're right there to help people. And they give them clothes to wear. And they feed them. And doctors to make them well. And places to live. It costs a whole $1 to join. And that's an awful lot of money. But won't you please try hard to find that much? so as you can help?
I would say that the greatest thrill in handling all of these archival materials is the awareness of the privilege to have passing through your hands actual history in the making, the only existing record, as it were, of the standards, ideals, fashions, and every aspect of life throughout the history of the motion picture industry. It is covered as never before in history, documented all of these aspects of life. So it's a thrilling occupation.
That might be, Press, if things were different.
By the 40s, Hollywood's heavens were aglow with stars.
There's no such thing as an only chance. Life goes on.
In Old Acquaintance, Betty Davis must forsake the man she loves because he's married to her best friend.
There are things that you just don't do if you want to live decently with yourself afterwards.
Do you mean to stand there and tell me that your friendship for Millie would mean more to you than your love for me?
Press, you know that. Now, I really must go.
It means such a lot to me.
Years later, the old friends meet again, under unusual circumstances.
Our country and its allies are engaged in a fierce and terrible war. We know, too, that in God's good time, we shall win. In the same way, I think we should be proud of the Red Cross. It accompanies the Navy to outlying naval stations. It is with the men in hospitals, wherever general hospitals are located. And through its staff in military stations, provides the important link of communication between the serviceman and his family back home. And the only creed it knows is the creed of humanity. It is always there wherever people need help. And the reason this can be done is a matter of simple trust, an act of simple faith. I think we cannot do less than justify this faith and confidence. What else, indeed, are we fighting for? Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Marlowe. Ladies and gentlemen, we urge you to send contributions to your local chapter of the American Red Cross. Thank you and good night.
Preston Drake? Well, I don't believe it.
I just heard your broadcast and couldn't resist calling you. Kit, you were great.
Well, thank you.
Say, Kit, what's the chance of seeing you? Let's meet later on for a drink.
Well, I'd love it, Preston.
I'll tell you what, let's all meet at the garden center in an hour.
We'll make it an hour and a half, will you? I've got to get out of my uniform. Preston.
And as Miss Davis slipped into something more comfortable, the realities of World War II propelled the Red Cross through one of its busiest times ever. More people gave money to the Red Cross during the war than voted for president in 1944. What was called the greatest free will offering in history meant a lot to those who went to fight.
Somewhere along the Atlantic coast, a troop transport readies for sailing. Its time of departure, its destination, a military secret. But it's no secret that where our fighting men go, there too go Red Cross workers to carry on our services to the armed forces. These pictures released by the U.S. Army Signal Corps show Red Cross field directors, assistant field directors, and recreation workers going aboard for overseas assignments. At sea, Red Cross kit bags are distributed to the fighting men. The gift makes a hit, and everybody's happy. Good luck, fighting men, wherever you are. And wherever you are, the Red Cross is at your service.
At their service in World War II, and at their service a short while later in Korea. The Korean War brought a new kind of Red Cross help, whole blood. The Red Cross blood program was in full operation, with bottle after bottle shipped to the front for use in military field hospitals. At home, more and more movies were being made in color, and theaters ran shorts asking America to roll up its sleeves. The Red Cross and the movies have grown up together.
Action.
As the Red Cross begins its second century, movies still document its work. Help it teach, tell its story. A remarkable alliance born decades ago when the Red Cross and the movies were young.
The Red Cross, in peace as in war, the symbol of mercy, the embodiment of man's humane duty to man.